The last mage build I made did pretty well. It was strong, it was long range, and it was exactly what a mage is supposed to be. However, I kept getting comments telling me to try the barrage abilities, and man do they work. This is the close range mage build that you need to know right now in Code Vein. Firstly, I want to thank those of you who have been helping me design stronger and better builds to share with everybody. Secondly, although the damage on this build doesn't seem as high per spell, it does do more damage overall. So the main concept behind this build are the barrage spells. We need to be up close and personal to get all of the hits, rather than only hitting a few of them with those elemental balls. The more of these that you land, the more damage that you do. This build isn't as heavy on Ichor since the main spells only cost 4. This means you can spend more time using your spells, but you're sacrificing your range to do so. Against normal mobs it works great, although I think I prefer having some range. Against bosses, however, this build absolutely melts them. You rotate 2 barrage spells back and forth, and you should never be on cooldown. By the time your Ichor is drained, either the boss is already dead, or you're in a position to get a lot of Ichor back because it's staggered. This build is basically the run and gun mage build for Code Vein. So let's get into the actual build. This build requires the Queen's Throat. I know a lot of you are about to tell me that you use different codes for this, and while you technically can, there is an important passive that I think you're going to need that you could only have if you're using the Queen's Throat. Bear with me until the end and I'll show you what I mean. As for my weapon, the Queen's Throat has very limited stats. Basically, that means most weapons aren't available to us. I ultimately landed on using the Queenslayer Bayonet plus 10 with the Devour enchantment for that extra Ichor drain. For our Veil, we're using the Noble Silver plus 10 with Devour as the enchantment yet again. This build does not go off of the willpower stat. The main spells are light, so we have to switch up our Veil. For our actives, the very first one is, you guessed it, Chaotic Ash. Honestly, an Ichor drain is awesome. Always add this to your mage builds, if you have it unlocked. Next up is our MVPs, the barrage spells. We have the Flame, Lightning, Ice, and Blood barrage spells, but you only need 2 equipped at a time. That 2-second cooldown will allow you to rotate out the 2 spells without much delay at all. If you notice the enemies you're fighting have a resistance to one of the types, just switch it out with a different one. Hunting Feast allows us to increase our drain rating for our weapon attacks. This is great while bosses are staggered since, while we slice and dice them with our low stamina cost weapon, we get almost all of our Ichor back. Cognitive Zeal is a staple mind and willpower increase. It lasts a while, so it's worth keeping this on. Steady Bulwark is our weapon defense buff. Since we're very squishy, we need an active to help us stay alive during our encounters. Elemental Wall is our magic variant of Steady Bulwark. This will allow us to resist a lot of magic damage. Then we got our Restorative Offering / Sympathetic Boon based on your preference. If you're not playing with a companion or online, this isn't needed, but I decided to start keeping it equipped because I've been going online way more often lately. The first passive we have on is the Mind / Willpower Up. Again, this is just a good damage increaser to have. Max Ichor Boost is another important passive, giving us more Ichor to play with. Mind / Fortitude is a bit more tricky. The Mind part makes sense, but the Fortitude just increases our stamina. The reason I added this one is because the extra stamina will allow us to dodge more often and attack more often during the phases where we're trying to get all of our Ichor back. Now, we finally arrive at the Ichor Reduction passive. This passive reduces Ichor consumption while focused. I think this is a really important passive to have during boss fights because it will allow you to keep using our spells for a longer period of time before you need to start regenerating your Ichor. Do you see the stars in the Queen's Throat skill tree? They resemble mastered abilities. Ichor Reduction, however, cannot be mastered. There are a few other classes with abilities that only that class can equip, and to my knowledge, there is no other way of getting it outside using that code. So that's why I had to use the Queen's Throat. Although stat-wise there may have been better options, none of the other options gave us that passive. I hope you enjoyed today's close range mage build. Although it doesn't play like a standard mage, it does do a lot of damage and has crazy damage against bosses. If you prefer the long range style, please check out the description down below. I'll link my traditional elemental mage build for you to check out. I also have other builds on my channel, as well as XP farming locations. If those things interest you, check out my playlist that will also be in the description. My channel is about helping play longer, faster, and better, so with that being said, if you want to see my future builds and guides, make sure you subscribe and click that bell notification so you don't miss my future videos. Let me know in the comments if there are any builds you want to see that I haven't already posted. Enjoy melting your bosses and have fun.